Hello everyone! It's your boy Ash here, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about the new Pokemon anime that's been coming out. I've already made a video about it back when it just came out, and now we've gotten a few new episodes, and I wanted to update you guys on my thoughts on the show and share a bit of my enthusiasm about it because, oh my god, it's so good right now! And, again, I'm not alone. I'm accompanied by my good friend Moonbyum. If you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Hello everyone. It's nice to be a part of this discussion again, as I'm also pretty excited about the current state of the Horizons anime right now, as it's really getting good as of late, recently.
Tell me about it. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, he was with me on that earlier discussion. That discussion was like very long, and we didn't have any video footage at all. It was just like the thumbnail image I made for the video for the entire of like the almost hour-long video, I think. Now I have my webcam. Still minimal editing because I want this to be out before the next episode comes out, and also the Pokemon anime guys are just a pain in the butt when it comes to copyright. So for the sake of making sure this comes out sooner rather than later, I'll try to keep the editing minimal, so if you just want to close the window and just listen to this like a podcast, you're just missing out on my beautiful face, and that's about it. But yeah, and we have Moonbyum here as just, again, the voice of God, pretty much. So let's get into the conversation itself. So, aside from generally good, do you have any specific thoughts on the show so far, like overall? What do you think about it? Anything you like? Anything you dislike? Then I'll go on to my 2 cents, but I want to hear your thoughts first, since you're the guest here.
Well, my thoughts on it currently, I think it's getting really good so far, and so far we get to know a bit about lore on Roy's Asian Pokeball that he received from his grandpa, which it originally was a part of the adventurer called Lucius, and he was a hero who made paradise with the 6 heroes a century ago, and hasn't been seen since he came across a gleaming paradise, which I'm very excited to see where it will go through from here. Aside from that, we have some great character moments, which I want to get to in further detail in the next segment. I don't want to go through it much here, but we did get to learn a bit more information about the Voltaggers, which I like. Molly during around episode 8 or 7, I can't remember, which it was cool to see that her entire family, when she was young, she didn't take in hindsight what she was doing, since obviously from her design, she came from a line of nurse joys or doctors in her life, and she wanted to follow what she wants to do instead of doing what her whole family line wants or are currently doing, which I find to be a cool concept that we never seen before in the show as of currently.
Well, yeah, in general, I think what they're doing, like pretty much all the main characters so far, is like pretty interesting. Because I mean, aside from Roy, probably I like Roy a lot. He's really fun, but he's like Roy and maybe the fire girl. I forgot her name. We don't know much about her yet.
What, Morla?
I'm gonna take your word for it. I don't have all the names down for the Voltacklers yet. I know off the top of my head. I know Liko, Roy, Dot, Freed, and Molly, because you mentioned her. Now I remembered, but I'm still like, I'm terrible with names. So if I start referring to the characters by rough descriptions, that's why. But yeah, I did like what they did with that, and also with Freed, because what I've been noticing they've been kind of focusing on is the show has kind of like a theme regarding like characters finding their own identities, and I like how that isn't just limited to Liko, because that's like her main arc, but even through this week's episode we just got with Free, which I really want to talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
Is how they're even like the adult characters, which I absolutely love that they're focusing on adult characters too. They go through like struggles and like, you know, they are concerned about shit, and it's very hard to put into words specifically, especially because it's not all of them so far. But I like how the adult characters aren't just, you know, there for the sake of like being reasonable. Not that they aren't reasonable, but they have their own arcs. I'm absolutely loving, since we're talking about characters already, I'm absolutely loving what they're doing with Freed specifically, because my god, that latest episode was so good, because we saw like a dude who was kind of like in a little bit of a slump. Like I get that vibe. That is real. For those who aren't into it, in the latest episode we saw a flashback of how the Votaklers, which is like the main team, the main characters, they were formed before the protagonist got into it, and Freed was like in his 20s with no motivation to do anything, dropped his job, was doing nothing, and it took like a very specific set of circumstances and a very life-changing moment for that to change. And to me, that just seems like very, I don't want to say mature writing, because the wording like mature writing implies something that's directly, you know, like adult, like edgy or something, and that's not necessarily it for the show. But I like how they're giving attention to all the characters, including the adults, and giving their arcs time to breathe and making them like realistic and relatable in ways that the series, I didn't really see the series doing before that very much, like during the Ash era, so to speak. Which also leads to my opinions on like the series in general, because I've been absolutely loving it. I was right, by the way. Sorry, a bit sick. I was right. Last time I mentioned like, oh, they're gonna be serialized. I hope they do like one episode leads to the next, that leads to the next, that leads to the next, and they're doing it. And I couldn't be happier that they are actually going forward with that and doing. Making so every episode is important, or like at least it connects to the last one and to the next one pretty seamlessly. Even in like the more chill episodes, there's usually like some kind of cliffhanger in the end or something that really makes you like interested in watching the next one and see what's going to happen. Even in this week's episode, that basically was like a flashback, even though it was like a phenomenal flashback. Like even like in the end of that, we got a little bit of a stinger. It's like they're going to the Galar region now, and they literally end with them seeing, like the episode ends with them seeing the Galar region like on the horizon. Like, okay, we're going there next. Another really cool thing I like about this show so far is not only how they're focusing on introspection as far as like the deep stuff with the characters, but also, and this is a very personal taste thingy, but and it's kind of hard to explain even, but they've had like these quiet moments where the characters just kind of like look at the sunset, or you know, have a little bit of time to like breathe and just admire life and like aspire to, especially like another like huge, I guess you could say like it's a running theme in the show so far, is like the aspiration to adventure. We saw that a lot in this week's episode, where we saw Reed gaining his motivation to start the Voltacklers and start seeing the world and doing something with his life again. And we get that scene where that amazingly animated scene where he runs up to like the Pikachu tornado thingy, and he sees like the sunrise, and then we take like a few seconds just to appreciate like the sunrise, and they do like a few camera spins and stuff. And I really like how that like shows the joys of just seeing the world and seeing like not only like beautiful vistas, but even like something deeper than that, just appreciating the world. That is, as someone who loves to just sightseeing and adventuring and seeing different places, that's something that just speaks to me very much on like a personal level. So I really liked seeing that, and we have a lot of that even from the beginning of the series. In those first two episodes we talked about, there's those scenes where like Liko and Sprigatito are like training by the moonlight, and there's like this huge, like a beautiful background with the moon and stuff. And there's like a constant drip feed of like characters just appreciating the world, and I just really like that. It's very wholesome. Which leads me to the next point, which is the characters. Do you have any thoughts about any characters in this show? Are there any favorites? Any characters that stand out? Maybe a few characters you don't like. Who knows?
The characters that stood out to me in Horizon so far are Dot's character. I really like her character so far, and how much she grows throughout the show from what we've seen. At the beginning, she didn't really want to she doesn't want anything to do with anyone, and just wants to be in her room and just making grooming videos. But as soon as Liko came along, she wants to improve on their relationship, considering that they are living in the ship together. And at first, she doesn't. She thinks that in real life, relationships are just a waste of time. But as the show further progresses, she does start to not only like Liko, but also the others when she tries to help the Bull Tacklers try to search for Liko, and the fact that she doesn't want anyone, include the explorers, messing with the people that she cares about. Even though she doesn't always show it, she does care about them a lot.
Yeah.
Also with
Oh, go on.
Oh yeah, I do want to continue about Free's character, because after episode 18, I started to really get invested in his character. Ever since before he met Pikachu, Pikachu, he didn't really. He thought he knew everything about a lot of everything about Pokemon before, and but when Liko's mother Luca wanted to show him the Pikachu that she has met, like he starts to like get really invested in him, and wanted to improve on their connection. And then when it was flying up when Pikachu was trying to fly, Pikachu showed him that there's a lot of things he hasn't seen about the world yet, that there's so much that he has to learn, and he wanted Pikachu to see the same thing he wants to, and to explore and see the world, to see everything, what it has to offer. And not only that, if this entire series wouldn't really be where it is if it wasn't for her mom not meeting Pikachu, which led to the creation of the Rising Voltaclers, and meeting Liko, and Liko meeting all of the other members and the friends that she met.
Yeah, true. It's a cool sort of like domino effect thingy, because it's all connected in the end. There's like even that scene in episode 18 where there's the little kid Liko, and she asks, "Who are you talking to?" And she's like talking to Freed on the phone. And it's such a cool little moment when like it hits that, holy shit, she's always been there. They've always like been like one handshake away from each other. We just never knew. But yeah, speaking of Freed, I liked him a bunch, and I've been liking him ever since, like for a good while now, even like before episode 18. Episode 18 gave him a lot more depth and made him a lot more interesting as a character, because now he has, like a backstory. He had a bit of an arc with Captain Pikachu and whatnot, and like you said, that makes him definitely like more relatable and more interesting. But I'll be honest, the dude has like the coolest scenes ever since like episode 2. The dude gets like the coolest set piece moments, and
definitely.
And he has just a very cool design and a very stylish kind of personality. So considering the type of character I usually tend to gravitate to, I immediately gravitated to him very early on. I just looked at this man and was like, I want to be like you when I grow up. And Man, he just has those cool older brother vibes, you know. He's just cool and like he's protective and responsible, but he not only, as we saw again recently in episode 18, has vulnerabilities, but he's also, you know, like fun and quippy, and he's kind of like I've seen like an article or two mentioning this, and I don't think it's like 1-to-1, but it is a cool sort of comparison thing. Because it's a clickbaity article that talked about how, okay, Ash might not be in this new show, but we got a pretty good glimpse of how he would be if he were older, kind of deal. I like that. That was like the headline. And while it's not 1-to-1, I can definitely see how like he's almost like an older, more mature take on like that trope of character. You know, like that, you know, optimistic, let's do something, see the world, confident kind of guy. The exception is that he's actually really cool, and he's actually really confident, and like he's like an adult who with experience and shit. So yeah, I immediately gravitated to him from like very early on, and I like Freed a lot, and I really like that we're actually starting to see I guess like his softer sides, his vulnerabilities, because what he does a lot, and he's been doing this a lot ever since, like, it's a character trait of his, pretty much, where like he just avoids talking about stuff sometimes. People will ask him something, and he'll just give them like the Cliff Notes version and take out like all the important info. And like,
Yeah.
one, amazing writing, to writers. I know what you guys are doing. You're just doing this to avoid exposition, and that's actually kind of genius, because number two, that's some good characterization. It makes sense for him. So they basically like killed two birds with one stone. Let's avoid too much exposition at once and like build up the mystery by having this character who realistically doesn't like to talk about this stuff in a way that feels believable, and that's just pretty clever. What I do want to mention though is that, like, while some of the Volt Tacklers are definitely getting a lot of attention and they are definitely really good and really enjoyable, I'm really liking their dynamic. Like, in general, there was like that picnic episode that could almost be filler, but they somehow made it like very wholesome and very nice, and I was like smiling by the end of that episode. I went into it seeing like the first 10 minutes and realizing, okay, this is gonna be a slow one. Then it ended, and I was like just like smiling from chin to chin, just kind of like, yeah, this was a good time. This was really fun. Can't wait for the next one. And I forgot what episode that was, but it's the one that they the ship is broken and they have a picnic instead. But yeah.
I think that was episode 9. I think.
Gotcha. You're the one keeping up with the numbers, so I'll trust you on that one. I really like their dynamic as a whole, but what I do sort of see that's kind of lacking is that some of the members are definitely getting more attention than others. So for example, while we got some like Molly's backstory back in the Arboliva episode, and now we've seen a lot of Freed, which actually we've been seeing a lot of Freed ever since the beginning, because again, he gets all the cool moments, and of course the three main kids get a lot of attention. But like, and Dot's uncle, whose name I also forgot, he gets a lot of dialogue.
Oh, Murdoch?
Yeah, him. Murdoch. He gets a lot of dialogue just because he's related to Dot, and he usually like gives out the exposition on Dot. But like, aside from this week's episode, the Fire Girl, whose name I forgot again.
Orla.
Yeah, her. She still doesn't have that much, like, character at all. I remember back in, like, the beginning, when we were having the earlier discussion, I mentioned how I expected them to do, like, one episode focusing on each of the main members of, like, the Volt Tacklers. And I'm glad that was not the case, ultimately, because that would be a very formulaic, almost episodic way of doing things, which I'm glad they're not going for. They're really doing like a cool like story progression thing. It would kind of be like Digimon, where they're technically moving on with the story, but they're doing like this very structured thing where like each episode is about one person, and that's just not very natural. So I'm glad they didn't take that direction, but like the drawback is that because we still haven't got many episodes about certain members of the Volt Tacklers, we're just kind of sort of there for now, and I hope over the rest of the series we do get to see more about them, because some of them are just a character design and a voice and a name, and that's pretty much about it. But moving on, since we've been talking a lot about this week's episode, I do want to transition onto what were our favorite moments and or episodes, or maybe moments or episodes that we particularly didn't like. So again, passing the baton on to you. You can give me your thoughts if you will. Give us, the audience, your thoughts on like what are some of your favorite moments.
Aside from episode 18, I do like a lot of the scenes from Roy, especially the watch route when he was trying to help a watch route trying to fly. It reminds me of a lot of Ash in terms of his determination of helping a Pokemon out and wanting it to help with its situation with trying to help reunite with its friends. And seeing it pay off at the end where it wants to go with Roy to the ship, Cash was well deserved. Fuecoco and Wattrell's chemistry before episode 17, where it focuses on improving on Wattrell and Fuecoco's chemistry in training with Captain Pikachu, and then with their strategy all coming together. There was a turbulence before they were training, before they came up with the strategy. Doc came up that there was a turbulence that helps Wattrell power up its, what was the move called? Spark. So they were trying to come up a way to get enough wind so it can power up Wattrell's Spark. So during the battle against Captain Pikachu, it was a really smart strategy since Roy's still a beginner, but the strategy that he came up with was pretty smart, where he used Fuecoco to fire off embers to give him more airtime, so Wattrell can have more time in the air to power up its Spark, which led to almost hitting Pikachu when it was distracted, but kinda, it start to see it coming after him, and then dodging. It was a pretty good moment. Yeah, overall, it's a good episode of proving on their relationship, and it's a good build up to episode 18, where it was cool that Free mentioned that Captain Pikachu took itself seriously during its battle for a brief moment when Wattrell started to use its power of Spark Attack, which they are starting to get stronger little by little.
Yeah, the progression. And like, just let me take over for a second. Something I noticed, because if I don't mention this, I'll forget it later. But something I noticed is how the progression as far as Liko and Roy's battle skills go is very, 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 very slow. But like in a good way. It's almost like they're slowly, like they start from like literally spamming tackle in the first few episodes, and they're like slowly getting better. And since this is probably going to be like a long show, I don't know if they're going to keep this going over onto Gen 10, or if they're just doing this for this generation. Maybe they're going to try something different in the next one. But it's clearly being set up as a very long show, and I do hope the characters eventually get to the point where like they have like really strong teams and they can actually like battle really well. That would be some insanely cool build up and payoff. Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
The last moments. Oh, it was episode 16 during the battle against Spinel, and Roy and Liko and Doc coming together to get our pendant back. Which I kind of want to follow up from the second segment, following up all the moments that they had after this. It was nice to see them all coming together to battle for the first time, like as a trio, especially since this is Dot's first time battling. It also goes to show how their relationship has grown, like I said in the previous segment, where now Dot sees Liko and the others as friends that mean a lot to her. Everything they've been through so far has come to where she is willing to step out and actually take a stand rather than being in a room most of the time. So it's great that her character is getting a lot of development, and it really shows with this episode.
I agree with you, and I also want to like add upon that by saying like I really like what he did with Dot in the sense that her arc is a little bit of a slow burn. Like, she isn't immediately like willing to go out, and she has trouble like running around when she's chasing after Liko, and stuff. But just from these few episodes, since we've gotten, because that was kind of a secret back when we started the show. Like during our last discussion, Dot wasn't even a thing. Like she wasn't a concept we knew of. They kept her a secret in her design and everything, and so we got to learn about her and what her deal is and her story and her development alongside Liko and Ryan, pretty much, aside from the fact that Liko didn't know she was Gurman until 2 episodes ago, but that's neither here or there. Just in general, we got to see like her, like getting to see, you know, her design and her what her deal is very gradually, and it's what I've been noticing that this show has been doing really well. It's like balancing slow burn development with actually giving us payoff in between. So pretty much every episode so far has had like something of meaning, something that's like really cool for the story or really interesting for the characters that like builds upon the previous episodes in like a really interesting way. Fun fact, we were actually planning to do this recording last week, back when we still didn't have this week's episode. And I was going to mention, oh dang, last week's episode was pretty good, wasn't it? The one before that was also pretty good. I was gonna say like, oh, it's a good spot to talk about the show now because we just had a climax and things are probably slowing down. Guess what? Not the case. I wouldn't be surprised if in 2 weeks, I'm excited to talk about the show again, and maybe I do another one of these. Who knows if you're down? But anyway, actually a series of moments that I really enjoy, or pretty much everything with the Explorers so far. And believe me, I love goofier villains in Pokemon. I love Team School. I love Team Rocket in the anime and stuff. Like they're great. They're all really cool. I do enjoy them, but I also really enjoy when villains are actually really mysterious and intimidating, and it works really well for the kind of story they're trying to do for the show, where again everything is connected, and we can see how the writers, the character designers, everyone behind the show, they're really trying to do something actually new and like different and exciting. And just from like that scene, I believe it was like 2 episodes ago, where like right at the end of the episode we got like a cliffhanger where they showed a bunch of previously unseen members of the Explorers, and they're all like these really cool kind of off the wall villain character designs that are all really interesting and really cool, and I can't wait to see some of these characters in action. And seeing how we have like, I forgot the dude's name, but the guy who actually managed to get Liko's pendant recently.
Oh, Spinel.
Yeah, how he actually succeeded, and how his plan was like cunning and intimidating, and how he kept himself like at a distance from the heroes so his plan could keep going according to plan. And I just think that's really cool, like seeing these more intimidating villains who seem to have everything in control and have like these very distinct but still very scary personalities. I think it's really cool, especially on top of how they're seemingly building up some internal intrigue among the Explorers, because before this guy we had, I believe, Amifio, the guy with the Sterile Edge. He was trying to get Liko's pendant before, but he was like pretty much like, yeah, you're not doing this mission anymore, you failed too much. And now he's spiteful and he's going after it anyway. So we're probably gonna see him again. And there's probably gonna be some internal politics intrigue between the Explorers. So, you know, some infighting between the villains is always interesting. So I really want to see where they go with this. And I think it's really cool, and it always leads to like a cool hook whenever they show up in the end. You have like a really cool, like wholesome episode. Yay, everyone's happy. Yay, we're the Voltackers. We're cool, it's fun. And then boom, suddenly this guy is trying to... I mean, the main goal so far is just taking Liko's pendant. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of them wanted to actually kill the children as well. Just as a bonus. It's in them. It's in them. If it weren't necessary for their plans, they would do it. No cap. So yeah, we're really enjoying these more intimidating villains that are like sort of a constant background force in the show that keep things moving. Can't wait to see what they do next. Also, another pretty big moment that I'm not gonna dwell too much on because I've already mentioned it like a bajillion times by now, and also everyone's seen it, is the moment in, again, episode 18, the latest episode, where we saw how Freed met up with Captain Pikachu, and that whole scene with the sunset where Freed mounts on his Charizard and tries to like chase after Pikachu, who's just jumping super high. He's making like a bolt tackle, and he's doing like this tornado that pushes him upwards so he can see the sunrise. And that scene is just phenomenal. They do like movie feature film level animation for this, and it's insane that we're actually getting this from like a weekly anime like Pokemon. It really shows how the creative team is like really trying to do something here, and really trying to get into the feels and make us like actually engage with this on like a deeper level, and that's just really, really cool. But you can find the clip online pretty easily. I probably it's a big moment. Many people are talking about it already. It's pretty freaking great. So before we end off, I do want to ask you: do you have any specific hopes for the series going forward? Do you have anything that you would like to see happen, or any things you want to see explored more going forward in these next episodes?
So what we've seen so far from the latest preview trailer, like you said before, that Embethio, Zerd, and Konya are returning. So I was kind of wondering, like, how are they gonna balance this alongside with the newer members of the Explorers? For my expectation for Embethio, Zerd, and Konya is that probably, even though they don't have the job of getting the pendant anymore, I think they still want to get it anyways to like prove their worth that yes, we are capable of completing our task, or something along those lines, or maybe between the two teams, like who will get it first, or probably team up together getting the pendant. I don't know where they're gonna take the two separate groups from here, but either way, I think it'll be cool, and both of them are cool in concept, so I'm fine with either way. Whatever they do in the future, it's a-okay with me. And from the looks of it, that Hyena from we see in the preview, I think this is the Pokemon that Liko is going to catch next, a part of her team. I don't think we got an episode of synopsis of this yet. I don't know, but I have a good feeling that she's gonna catch it at some point in the episode. Since they're a Galar, probably we could see. I don't know. It's kind of a stretch. Like maybe we could see other, aside from Kabu, probably we can see some other gym leaders that we haven't seen from Journeys. Maybe we can see Nessa or wait, I forgot what his name was. I think his name was Milo. I think.
Oh, the grass probably dude. The grass dude is Milo. Yeah.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I remember that one.
Yeah, I do hope we get to see some gym leaders that we haven't seen from Journeys yet, or recurring ones if they do intend to like travel more to the world. But either aside from those, that's all.
As far as specific specific hopes go for me, I agree with pretty much all you said, but also, since they're now like finally moving together, and just so I can sneak in just one final piece of praise to the show, they're pretty much doing what I was expecting Journeys to do with the regions, where the characters are, since their main base, in this case like the Brave Asagi, their ship is always like moving. They're like actively moving from region to region. It's like something that kind of bothered me about Journeys was how they spent most of it on Kanto, and then they would eventually do one episode on Hoenn and then just come back, and then we wouldn't get much like of a focus on any particular region and what made it stand out all that much. And with Horizons, what we're seeing is that like each arc of the series is pretty much set on a different region, and we're actually like seeing the characters move around from region to region. And what I'm hoping for is that they continue to do that and hopefully see all the regions and we get a pretty good focus on each. I wonder if they're gonna do this linearly, where they seem to be going backwards. They started with, aside from Kanto, which haha, Kanto is always going to get the focus. But aside from Kanto, we start at Paldea, and now we're moving over to Galar. Maybe we'll go to Alola next, or maybe they'll do something different. Maybe they'll go to a different place entirely. But I just hope we continue to see more like in-depth visits to each region, or at least most of them. Because that's been really enjoyable so far. Like keeping track of where exactly in the game world they are is always pretty cool, especially with how weirdly faithful they have been to the game backgrounds in this season, especially. So when they were going through Paldea, sometimes they're like in a part of like a city or something, and I'll look at it and I'll be like, I know where this is. I played this part of like this area. I played in this area. My character was running around this. It's so accurate in a way that, as far as my memory goes, the anime didn't really do that much beforehand. Aside from maybe journeys with Galar, because we got like the wild area and a few of the cities. But yeah, genuinely, like sometimes when they were in Paldea, they really got like the background design right, as far as like pretty much making you feel like, oh yeah, they are in the exact same place from the game, you know? And I hope we continue to see that. Another thing, and this one is more of a personal, like, want. Like, this is something that wouldn't necessarily make the show either better or worse. It's just something that I'm missing, which is some kind of, maybe not necessarily a Pokemon League, but like some kind of tournament arc or just general competition. Maybe Roy could eventually get into, you know, Pokemon League stuff and maybe fight some gyms or something. And I know they don't want to do that because they don't want to make the same story as they did with Ash again, because we just got through that. And like the manga and everything proved that Pokemon doesn't need gyms and leagues and stuff to be Pokemon. And I think, on one hand, I do think it's cool that they're trying something different. On the other, this kind of friendly competition with, you know, tournaments and kind of like sporty sort of, you know, rivalries and stuff is something that I feel is so intrinsically connected to Pokemon as a brand. I don't know if I would be as much as I am into sports and competitive gaming if it wasn't for Pokemon and like the anime and what it inspired me to do. So I really hope they don't drop that idea completely. Maybe as a, you know, like a B plot, like it doesn't have to be like the main focus of the story again like it was before, but maybe if like one of the Volteclers and later on the series like came up and was like, okay, I want to participate in the Pokemon League or something, and we got like a whole little background arc about that, where meanwhile like the big stuff is happening, maybe the characters are going to gyms or something, or maybe just a little, oh, there's that like a tournament going on, maybe they go to Unova and the PWC is going on, and for whatever reason they can join and we can get like a small tournament arc out of this. Just anything of that nature I would personally really enjoy, because I feel personally like that's a big part of what Pokemon is, and I wouldn't really like to see the anime drop that completely. Even though I'm glad it isn't really the focus anymore, I do want to still like see a little bit more of it going forward. Maybe, hopefully, who knows?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind they did something like that on design.
Yeah. So if you have nothing more to say, then I think we should be wrapping this up right about now. So thank you, Moonbyum, for sticking around with me and having a nice little chat. Hopefully we can do this again in the future. You're, of course, the Pokemon anime guru as far as my Twitter friend group goes, so you're always welcome to join in. I'm just an excited fan so you definitely know more of the data and like more of the background of the anime than I do, so always glad to have you here, even if it's just giving support and stuff. You're always it's always a pleasure, and thank you all for watching through all of this, especially since this video again is not that heavily edited, because I have to get this out on time and I don't want to get copyright strikes, so I'm sorry you had to look at my beautiful face for so long. I know it's difficult to look at because you'll start getting jealous and stuff. I know. Anyway, I'm kidding. But yeah, thank you for sticking around, and watch the show if you haven't already, because it's a blast. Thanks for watching, and see you soon. Ash out.
Bye!